Hi guys, Totallydubbed here, and today I'm doing a video review on the LG Tone 3, or their longer HBS-FN6 name. I mean, what naming is that? Anyway, these True Wireless earbuds can be found for around £150 in the UK and around $100 in the US. Prices constantly fluctuate in the UK, but that's the normal average price of £150 to £130. As such, I'm reviewing them at that price range. Now, if you'd like to know about some alternative earphones that you might want to consider, and bear with me here, then do check down in the description below for my suggestions. I've reviewed in excess of 50 different True Wireless earbuds and heard in excess of 500 different audio related devices. Now, in the description below you will also find a link to my Instagram, so yes, a little plug there. If you do have Instagram, I'd very much appreciate a follow. It's at TotallyDubbed. So let's see how these earbuds compare to some of its very competent competitors. So first off, let's talk about what you get in the box. Well, it's pretty simple. You've got a USB Type-C to USB Type-A cable, although I do find it slightly strange to find white cables with the black earphones, and yes, they're available in two colors, black and white. These are the black ones over here. You've also got a set of ear tips. Now onto the case, it's very lightweight and portable. I really love its size, and in terms of design, it's great in terms of fitting inside your pocket. They support wireless charging, and they've also got a USB Type-C connector, which is pretty fast, and therefore from 0 to about empty it'll take around 2 hours-ish. Now in terms of battery life, the case provides 12 hours of charge, while the earbuds themselves will last around 6 hours, give or take. You know, it depends on your usage and your volume and how you use them, but essentially expect around that type of battery life. Now in terms of the earphones themselves, they've got a very glossy design. As I said before, they're available in black and white. Now the earphones themselves have got touch sensitive buttons. Now the touch sensitive buttons really do my head in, because they've got a very small stem over here, and when they're in your ear, sometimes you're touching here, or here. You've really got to be very precise in terms of where you touch the stem. It's not even at the end of the stem, like the Libratone Track Air Plus, for example. It has to be towards the top of the stem. I found that the touch sensitive buttons do respond when you do tap them, but often the case is in real world scenarios you'll be constantly tapping away at your ears and not getting anything, at which point you'll just revert to your phone and just do that instead. Now they also do support master and slave driver support. In other words, the earphones can be used independently from each other, so you can use the left driver and right driver, and the connection between the two earphones is really good. Now speaking of connectivity, they also do connect over Bluetooth, as you might expect with some True Wireless earphones, and they've got the SBC and AAC codec support. Now it's great to see AAC codec. I would have liked to see aptX codec support as well, if not higher support, but nevertheless those are the two codecs you get. And there's some other earphones which are bad for this as well, but I just would have wished that LG had incorporated better quality codec. Another thing I should mention is the fact that these are IPX4 rated, so therefore for sweat and rain they'll be perfectly fine, although you might want to consider that these earphones might not be the best for running due to their kind of slippery type of design, and they've got no sort of over-ear hooks and things like that. So I wouldn't really use them for very active sports, but if you're someone who's going for a light jog, then I think they'll be perfectly fine and sit in your ear. The passive noise isolation of these earphones is good, but they do not have active noise cancellation, unlike some of its competitors at this price range. Now the earphones also come with an app, which you can see over here showcases the percentage battery remaining, although there is no way of showcasing how much charge is remaining of the case. Furthermore, these also have a play and pause function, which is great, but then there's no way of enabling or disabling that feature through the app. Now through it you will see, however, a equalizer setting. Now I would personally ignore the Meridian ones and set your own ones. Now you can see here I've added quite a hefty chunk to the bass. I would actually potentially add a few notches to the mids and take a few off from the highs. That's completely subjective, it's completely up to you, but I'll be alluding to this in the sound quality section of the review. I do find it slightly odd that you can't rename the custom profiles. You can only have it as custom 1 and custom 2. Moving down, you've got the ambient mode select, and you can adjust the slider, the volume of the earbuds themselves, the touchpad lock if you don't want the touch control settings, and then you've got the touchpad settings. As with touchpad settings, you can see you've got 3 different levels: one single tap, double tap, and triple tap. Now you can customize them to a certain degree, so you can have them to voice command or the media controls, or have them disabled altogether per segment or entirely through that option there. You've got notifications per app. You can find your earbuds as well, and you can check for software updates too. And now we get onto performance. And first off, let's talk about recording quality. So everything you can hear right now is being recorded from the earbuds. It's going via an app, and then it's going through my video editor. So might not be ideal, but gives you somewhat of an indication of how the recording quality sounds. And subjectively, it's not too bad, although it does sound pretty tinny, so therefore it's very more mid to high end orientated, where the bass is pretty much completely cut out. As a comparison, here is the Jabra Elite 75T, which are among the better end of the spectrum when it comes to recording quality, and hopefully you'll agree with me that the overall tonality of my voice comes across a little bit more accurately via the 75T. With call quality out of the way, let's get on to the most important part, at least for me, that's the sound quality. Now these have supposedly been tuned by Meridian, which are a British company, and I was very much having high hopes for these earphones. Unfortunately, that's not quite the case, because the earbuds just don't really provide a convincing sound. Let me break it down for you. First off, let's talk about the sub bass. That's it. Moving on to the mid bass. Sub bass is non-existent in case you missed that. The mid bass is very, very light. Almost non-existent as well. It doesn't really sound convincing at all. There is some sort of clarity there, so the quality is there, but really even with an EQ, these sound completely drowned out in the mid bass. So with the sub bass being non-existent and the mid bass being very, very faint, they're really not great for general music listening. But let's say you're not going to use these for music. I don't know what else, but let's say you're not going to use them for music and you're going to be listening to podcasts only. Now, in terms of podcasts, the mid-range is decent. It's not the best. It still needs to be a little bit EQ'd. And despite Meridian's EQs, I do think the custom EQ that I showed you guys before through the app is probably going to be a little bit better for most average consumers, whereby they want a little bit of a more enriched mid-range. Now the mid-range is there, and I won't deny that they have a decent mid-range when EQ'd. They do sound more forward sounding than a lot of its competitors, and namely ones which are in the sub £100 price range. They will come across a lot more convincing in this range. As for the highs, they're decent. They do extend relatively well, but they do sound a little bit harsh on the ears without an EQ, so therefore you might have seen before that I dropped the EQ just a little bit in the highs just to take that little edge off them. But at least that's to my ears. Of course, your mileage may vary. Now, the thing that won't really vary is in terms of the soundstage. The soundstage is really not too convincing, and here is where I had the biggest problem with them, whereas most people that I've read online had a problem with the bass. The soundstage was really truly disappointing. It's kind of got a closed-ish sound, and one that kind of lacks instrument separation, has very poor width and depth, and just quite simply isn't a earphone that I really enjoyed listening, because it just didn't give a convincing sound. If I look down, I've got a few different earphones here: Sennheiser, Libratone, Jabra. There's so many more out there on the market, and those earphones provide much better instrument separation. Even ones which are a lot cheaper, such as the Creative Outlier Air, they give a kind of much wider sound signature, and they cost, by the way, £75. So what I'm trying to say over here is the LG Tone 3 just don't provide a good instrument separation and overall soundstage, and despite having good imaging and tonality, it just doesn't give a convincing overall sound presentation. It's ultimately what you're going to be looking for here. I think if Meridian are watching this, I think they'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Now finally, I should also mention UVnano. This is a thing that LG are claiming kills 99.9% of bacteria, and there's a little asterisk, and I'll get into this in just a bit. Now, it's just worth bearing in mind that for this to operate, as I mentioned before, you have to have the charging case plugged in for 10 minutes with the earphones in, not being used, and then when you do that, it supposedly kills 99.9% of bacteria. Now, the problem is bacteria is massive. There's loads of different types of bacteria. Now, I am not a researcher, I am not a scientist, however, my fiance works in this field. And when I did question LG about it and asked for a bit more evidence rather than just the marketing claims, they told me that the two types of bacteria that were tested are E. coli and S. aureus. Now, these two types of bacteria, one of them, the former, lives in your gut and the other one lives on your skin. It's pretty much predominant in every sort of human being, no matter where you're from. The issue here is that, yes, it might kill 99.9% or a high portion of percentile of these bacteria types, but there are so many types of bacteria in the world that this UV nanotechnology hasn't claimed to be killing or hasn't been tested to do that, because it almost would be impossible to sequence all the types of bacteria through these types of earphones. Now, I would have loved to test this. I actually tried to order Agra plates, but unfortunately they wouldn't have arrived here on time. It almost like a month delivery time, which was ridiculous. It's probably due to coronavirus, and also equally my fiance couldn't go into the labs to test this because due to coronavirus the universities are closed and limiting staff numbers, so they couldn't go and test this. But if she has the opportunity to test it and I get the earphones to keep, then I'm going to try and test this and potentially put this in the comment section below to see how much percentage of bacteria has it killed. So what I'm trying to say over here is that I can't test the claims, but from my research, it does kill a high percentile of bacteria, although the 99.9% UL certified claim is only relating to two types of bacteria out of basically 1 million that there might be living around you or right now in this video. So that's what you should know about UV Nano and how much kind of emphasis you should put behind it when you're thinking about buying these earphones. So what is my verdict on the LG Tone 3? Well, if it wasn't obvious already, I wasn't a fan of its sound quality. Yes, it does have a decent mid-range, but other than that, these are completely trounced by its sub £200 competitors. Even in sub £100 territory, these earphones are given a great run for their money and kind of beaten by some of its competitors, such as like the creative Outlier Air. Now, elsewhere, in terms of their touch-sensitive buttons, they're an absolute nightmare to use. I just really didn't enjoy using that. But on the plus side, they are very lightweight. Even the case is pretty portable and can fit in a lot of pockets, so I do like that type of design, and they do come in 2 colors as well in case you're interested. Now, again, I did mention the UV Nano thing just before, so I don't really have to reiterate it all that much, but I think that's quite of a pointless type of inclusion, and while it might be quite relevant with coronavirus, there is a difference between viruses and bacteria, so it doesn't really matter if these kill 99.9% of all type of bacteria, which they don't. It still won't help when it comes to viruses. Point is, go buy some other earphones instead. Links in the description below will take you to those earphones and my reviews. This, as always, is an unbiased, unpaid review, as with all types of reviews on my channel. If you do like that type of content, make sure you give it a like, subscribe to see more, and favorite and share. I really very much appreciate your time. Take care, guys. Totally dubbed out. Bye-bye.